Hey guys, I'm Sarah Lavonne and welcome back to my channel. I mentioned in my when to go to the hospital video, which I made a very long time ago now, that I would make a warning signs to go to the hospital video. And so here it finally is. Today, I'm gonna go over the top 3 warning signs, plus I'll give you some tips for when to go to the hospital that wouldn't be normal things to expect and actually reasons to seek medical care. If you've been following my channel, you know that I try to keep things upbeat and I try to keep them positive, which I'm still gonna try to do, but I wanna give you a heads up that this one is more of a be aware video, not a reason to freak out, but like a let's have a more serious conversation type video. Y'all are responsible, you're wise, you're motivated parents, and so I'm sure you can handle the information. And I really think this information is essential to know so that you could recognize if there was something wrong and you needed medical assistance. Make sure you subscribe, and then let's get at it. If you go back to my when to go to the hospital video, I give you some things and reasons to go to the hospital, which are your water breaking and then contractions, and I describe your contractions. On top of that, there are a couple more reasons that would be signs to go to the hospital, but would not be things to expect. Whereas like the water breaking and your contractions, we want that. We're excited about it. We're not freaking out. We're not like, uh-oh, there might be something wrong. And so this video really is those things that might be going wrong. Now, I also want to say if you have any of these signs, I don't want you freaking out. I want you to be able to respond, right? We don't want to cause anxiety. Anxiety for the sake of anxiety doesn't do any good, but we want it to turn into action. And the action, I would say, if you have any of these signs, it's a reason to either call your doctor, and I'll kind of help to disclaim that, or go to the hospital, okay? These are not things that you wanna mess around with. These are reasons that we want to make sure that everything is okay with either you or your baby, okay? So those 3 things are, first of all, your baby needs to be moving. And so starting around 28 weeks, some doctors are gonna be different with that, midwives as well. People are gonna tell you, people meaning your medical person, is going to tell you to do fetal kick counts. And I can do an extra video on that, specifically on how to do a fetal kick count. It's really easy. You just count the movements of your baby. And ideally, we want 10 movements in 1 to 2 hours. And your provider may have a different, well, not really different. They're either gonna choose 1 or 2 hours. Really, the max is 2 hours. So you know how much your baby moves. You know that a lot of you, you're like, oh my goodness, this thing is flip-flopping and doing gymnastics inside of me all the time. That's normal for me. Now, as you grow and as your pregnancy progresses, your baby's gonna have less room to move around in there. And so those kicks may turn from like somersaults to like woo inside to like a little like, hey, I'm here, mama. Like, I'm good. That's your sign that you're good, okay? We want like a little something, a little flutter. Those little guys are something. They count to your 10, okay? So you know what's normal. If you feel like all of a sudden you're like, you know what? It's been a minute since I felt my baby move, like maybe a couple of hours. I'm not really sure because I wasn't paying attention. Go lay on your side, get some ice water. I mean like cold water, okay? Like you wanna shock the system, and that really with that cold water that can cause the baby to be like, ooh, it's kind of chilly all of a sudden, and then they start moving. Or drink some juice, have something sugary that can also help to get them moving. But in that hour period of time, go lay down and actually look at the clock and say, how much is my baby moving? And those little like ping-pings do count, okay? And we want 10 in an hour. If it's been and I would say the first hour, just count. And if you don't get 10, then do the ice water, do the walk around or whatever normally gets your baby to move. And then in that 2-hour mark, if your baby isn't moving, you need to go in and get checked out. Now, normally that just looks like they put you on the fetal monitors. You're there for 20 to 30 minutes. Mind you, it's a hospital, so like probably we're like an hour, 2 hours, bring a phone charger and a book or something, because it's very rare for you to get in and out of the hospital that quickly. But if you do, then great. You're there just to see that baby's okay. You find out baby's okay, and a lot of times too, we would get them in the hospital where you walk in and you're like, now my baby's moving like crazy, you know? So most of the time it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but the concern is that there is something wrong with the baby. The baby's well-being is, we kind of expect that they're moving a lot when they're doing okay. And if there's a decrease in that movement, we just wanna make sure that they're okay, okay? So number 1 is your baby's moving 10 kicks an hour, 10 kicks 2 hours. If not, head on in and get on checked out, okay? You can also call your OB before that. Number 2 is that you have signs of preeclampsia. This is a video that's coming eventually in the next couple of months probably, but the 3 signs that we really look for signs of preeclampsia, which short version is basically like high blood pressure with lab changes. So the high blood pressure is progressed into a disease process that has potential risk for your baby. Perfusion, meaning blood flow, nutrients to the baby. And then the biggest risk for you is 2 things, either having a seizure, which is not good, or having a stroke. If your blood pressure gets too high, you can have a stroke based on this preeclampsia that can happen in pregnancy. The cure is birth. So once you have your baby, that doesn't mean that like you can't be preeclamptic in the postpartum period, but typically you gotta have your baby and then the disease process can heal itself. So we wanna know what those signs are because it can pop out of nowhere. You can be the healthiest, most fit, most whatever type person and still have a preeclampsia. So headache, you can take a Tylenol and see if your headache goes away. If you take a Tylenol, your headache doesn't go away, or you choose not to have a Tylenol, that's totally up to you. I'm not telling you have to do it. But you have a Tylenol, your headache is still there, and especially if it's coupled with blurry vision changes. Sometimes that is like my vision's changed, like all of a sudden I can't see as well, or I have little spotter floater things, or there's like little light flashes, or any kind of vision change. Vision disturbance, we call it, may be a sign of a high blood pressure, headache, blurry vision, and then what we call epigastric pain. Now, what we're looking for from a medical perspective is that disease process has actually gotten and is affecting your liver. And your liver is on your right upper quadrant. So we say right upper quadrant pain of your abdomen. But epigastric really by definition is epigastric, like in the middle of your belly. So it may feel kind of like heartburn, especially if you have those 3 symptoms. You gotta get it checked out. If you have a home blood pressure cuff, we want your blood pressure under 140 over 90. If it's over 160, over 105, then that is absolutely a phone call to your OB and have that conversation. They're probably gonna send you in to be ruled out for preeclampsia. That is one of the complications of pregnancy that we wanna take very seriously. If you have preeclampsia, it will not get better until you have the baby, okay? Unless they put you on medications if you're really early in your pregnancy. So we wanna pay attention, we wanna recognize it, we wanna respond. Those are your 3 signs that we're looking for as the second warning sign for your pregnancy. And then we have number 3, the last but not least is vaginal bleeding. Any vaginal bleeding prior to 37 weeks, which is considered term, it's like early term, but it's still term, that vaginal bleeding is abnormal, okay? So if you have a little bit of vaginal bleeding, spotting, if you're ever bleeding, like profusely bleeding from your vagina, like pouring out, heavy period, go to the hospital, okay? That is not something we wanna mess with, especially if you have any kind of bleeding disorder or you have a placenta previa. You would know this hopefully on ultrasound. So any kind of like vaginal bleed, like if I were to chop off my arm and it's like bright red, fresh blood, that's not ideal, right? Now, prior to 37 weeks, any vaginal bleeding, you're heading on in to get checked out, okay? Now, if anything goes into the vagina, I mean a vaginal exam, I mean you've had sex, I mean you've had a transvaginal ultrasound, I don't know what else you'd be putting up there at this point off the top of my head, but let's say there's something in your vagina. Your cervix is super sensitive to being touched. It's very vascular. There's a lot of blood flow to it. And so especially towards the end, you might see a little bit of spotting. You might have a little bit of vaginal bleeding. And then when you're in labor, it is expected to have a little bit of what we call bloody show. So the difference between vaginal bleeding and bloody show is vaginal bleeding is like the arm chopped off, like fresh, thin blood, bright red, whereas bloody show is like a mucousy, it's like your mucus plug with some blood. Streaks of blood, little bits of blood, not like, and kind of like with discharge and like that's not just straight up fresh blood, okay? Like from the movies, blood, okay? Bloody show past 37 weeks, especially if you're in labor, especially if you've been having contractions, is completely normal. But if there's any concern about how much blood is coming out of you, call your doctor, okay? Some doctors, they'll give out their cell phone. That's pretty unusual. Midwives sometimes too. I have gotten plenty of bloody showy type, is this vaginal bleeding okay, pictures. And that little spotting, stringy little bits of blood, probably okay. Better safe than sorry, call your doctor. We wanna make sure that there's no other complication going on inside. I, as a nurse, would be concerned about a placenta abruption, if there's a placental problem, or any kind of your previas, vasa previa, placenta previas, whatever. Okay, we wanna make sure that baby's getting enough blood, you're getting enough blood, you're saving your blood, all of that, okay? So my top 3 are baby needs to be moving, you don't have signs of preeclampsia, headache, blurry vision, epigastric pain, and then vaginal bleeding any more than spotting, for sure before 37 weeks, after 37 weeks, like actual blood pouring from your vagina like a heavy period. Those would be the things that would be reasons to call your doctor, or also trust your instinct, guys, that like a lot of times, and I would see this in the hospital constantly, where they'd be like, I feel like something's wrong. And like, my baby's not moving quite as much. I kind of feel weird in my head. Sure enough, she'd have a preeclampsia or something going on. Better safe than sorry. It's just better to get it checked out. Worst case scenario is you go in, you get reassured, you get some added education, you know you're good to go, and then you can feel confident going home and waiting for labor. Thanks everyone for being with me here today. If you have other comments, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the comment box down below. I really don't mean to scare you, but I really believe that if you have the education, first of all, you know your baby's moving and you're laboring at home, that is your one sign that everything is okay. So you can feel more confident to know like, no, I don't really have any of the warning signs. Now, there are some other things, of course, like there's textbooks and entire degrees on obstetrics, right? I've done all that work and I know there's other things that could come up, but those are gonna be the top 3 things that we really do potentially see more often than some of the one-offs that are like a really random situation, okay? Better safe than sorry, go see your doctor. If you want more from me, you can always go to my website. I'll link everything down in the description box. I have my Amazon list down there that's a curated list of all sorts of things to help you with your pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum, book recommendations, and then I also have Instagram where I'm giving you tons more information and connecting with you over there. You can kind of get up to date on what's happening with bundle birth and all the new things over on Instagram. So make sure you head on over there, follow me on Instagram, and then don't forget to subscribe, like it, share it with a friend, and then until next time, don't forget to flex and flow, and I will see you soon. Bye. Now, headache alone, if you throw a Tylenol in. Eat a Tylenol. Don't chew it up. Okay. What are you gonna do with the Tylenol? You take a Tylenol. I really want you to give you a head. Ah!
Yeah, you weren't very, you're not very excited. Not as normal.
I'm so excited now. Can you hand me my energy drink? Pound it out. Watch me. Oh no, I can flip it on. We're flipping. I'm flipped. Let's do it. Here we go.
I'm feeling that you weren't. you were lost.
I was in a moment.
You ready to go?
All righty, let's do it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm still go. Got it. I can't even do it. I literally can't. I have to cross them myself. 3 things. 3 things. No.
I think that's 6.
3 things. 3 things. Now I can't like uncross my fingers. Now I just like weird. My fingers don't. I'm double jointed too. Like I can do a lot of weird things with my hands, but that's a talent. Oh, I can do that one. Oh! Ding-a-ling! Wait, stay. Ring-a-ding. Oh my god. Ooh! It feels dirty. Ooh! It reminds me of a nipple. Whose nipple flops around like that?